Now here's Jim Keller with the deer news.
Our first story this week: Poacher of trophy deer faces felony and big fine by less than an inch. This story is from the USA Today website and was reported by David Strigi. A 29-year-old man was charged with a felony after he was discovered having illegally killed a mule deer whose antler spread was a half-inch longer than the minimum length used for restitution for a Utah trophy deer. In the 5th District Court in Salt Lake City, Ethan LeBaron was charged with wanton destruction of protected wildlife by using spotlights at night to kill the deer, in this case, a third-degree felony. He was also charged with a tagging requirement violation, a Class B misdemeanor, by the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources. Charges are still being considered for the two men who were with LeBaron. A buck whose antler spread measures 24 inches or more makes it a trophy, and illegally killing one is a felony-level offense in Utah. It calls for a minimum restitution of $8,000. LeBaron's deer measured 24.5 inches. Had it been under 24 inches, it would have been a Class A misdemeanor, and the restitution would have been a minimum of $400. LeBaron was discovered by conservation officers using archery equipment and a spotlight to shoot and kill a buck near Kitchapah Canyon in Iron County at around 10:30 p.m. on August 20th. A witness had called the UTIP hotline to report seeing spotlights in the dark because it was archery deer hunting season and the witness worried illegal hunting was occurring. Hunting deer at night is illegal, as is wasting game. 2 conservation officers arrived on the scene and found 3 men and the dead deer. Because the animal had not been field dressed, the meat had spoiled and was unable to be donated. Wisconsin shed hunters find what may be the biggest buck in Wisconsin history. This story is from the Guns America website and was reported by Jordan Michaels. A deer and shed hunter in Wisconsin recently found what might be the biggest set of whitetail antlers in Wisconsin history. The record for the biggest deer in Wisconsin ever to be found or killed is 253 inches, and that record has stood for 47 years. Nate Olson and a friend, Travis Worthrich, were shed hunting February 1st when they came across the dead heads of 2 bucks who had died with their horns locked together. It's a relatively frequent occurrence among rutting males, and game wardens have used a variety of means to unlock the antlers, including shooting them off. These deer weren't fortunate enough to run into a game warden, and they died with their antlers still attached to their skulls. When Olson saw the 23-point rack, he was so surprised he couldn't speak. Withrich recalls that Olson turned to say something to him when Olson noticed the antlers under a tree. Another of Olson's friends, Mike Hackett, had been tracking the deer for 3 years on his trail cam. The current Wisconsin record holder is a 30-point Buffalo County buck killed in 1973 that scored B and C 253. Olson believes this buck will beat the record, and the Gazette Extra reports that a Wisconsin Buck and Bear Club representative agreed with Olson's assessment. The official measurement will be taken the first week of April at the Wisconsin Field and Stream Deer and Turkey Expo in Madison. Olson wishes he had the chance to shoot the buck himself, but is nonetheless happy with the result. The buck was found just south of a town called Ofordville in southern Wisconsin. Legislation would get rid of Minnesota shotgun-only deer hunting zones. This story is from the Star Tribune website and was reported by Tony Kennedy. Minnesota would do away with shotgun-only zones for deer hunting if the legislature this year takes up a bill that recognizes changes in firearms technology and usage. Senator Jeff Howe, a Republican from Rockville, is chief author of the shotgun bill. He said support for the initiative will be coming soon from the Minnesota Deer Hunters Association, the largest hunting group in the state. He introduced the bill in 2019, he said, because shotgun-only zones for deer hunting don't make sense anymore. For one thing, Howe said, it's legal for coyote hunters to use rifles all over the state. Secondly, shotgun-only zones were created years ago as a herd control measure in areas where deer were scarce. It was thought that hunters would kill fewer deer with shotguns because slugs had notably less range than bullets fired from a rifle. Howe said rewriting the regulation would eliminate confusion over the use of high-powered, long-distance pistols for deer hunting. Deer hunters are going to be on board with this, and the DNR is fine with it, Howe said. The proposal could be held back out of concern that it might draw unfriendly amendments. If so, the hunting regulation proposal could be transformed into a controversial gun legislation. That concludes this week's edition of the Big Buck Registry's Deer News. Special thanks to Daniel Applebaum and John Geis for leads on stories this week. For links to the stories featured this week, please check our show notes at www.bigbuckregistry.com. If you have any ideas for future topics or have questions about any of these topics, please email me at jim@big